Hey guys, good evening.
Good evening.
Hey Srini.
Good evening, sir.
Uh,
Good evening, sir.
Good morning to you, Srini.
hey, good morning.
Just give us a couple of more minutes. Let everyone come.
Yeah,
Okay,
no
and,
problem.
we have a lot of visitors here today. I think, I'm doing a webinar, right? So I've invited a lot of my other students, the newcomers.
Okay,
Let's see how many of them come there. Probably not a huge crowd, but yeah.
okay,
We'll see.
no problem. Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't have some your writing equipment ready, there will be a few questions and people have to kind of reflect on it. So either if you prefer the style paper pen, that's fine, or you want to do it in your device, that's fine too. Just something where you can write down in private, without sharing with others.
Okay, take notes basically. Yeah.
So we follow this format called personal reflection, wherein you kind of think about it on your own. Each of you are going to give different answers. It's not like one right answer. So that's why I wanted something you guys can think to.
Can we? Shall we get started? We are sharp 7. Let's get going because we have to start. Yeah, let's start.
Okay. All right. All right, guys. So first, welcome. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and then we'll go from there. So Hari, you need to give me screen share permission.
Yeah. How do we do that?
I think click on my name and right click and see if there is an option to share. Or make me a host or something. Maybe that's an option.
We do that. I don't know. Make host. Yeah.
Yeah, that should work.
I did.
All right, let's see it one more time. All right.
Yep.
All right, guys. So let me know when you see my screen, okay?
We can.
All right, excellent. Okay, guys. So thank you for all coming, and thanks, Hari, for first inviting me to share my experience. I have some battle scars, which is probably why Hari invited me. I'll talk about it as we go along. But hopefully you would find this to be helpful. So basically, let me get started, right? So my name is Shrinivas, and you have my LinkedIn profile. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to share things, any future contact. And if you have any follow-up questions, do message me on LinkedIn. So I don't want to just give you a presentation and walk away. So that's the reason I'm sharing my contact information on LinkedIn. All right. So let me kind of tell you what it is, right? So excuse me, guys. So basically, today I'm over 50. I was actually giving you my age, but basically, back in 1990s, I was an engineering student, probably about the same age as many of you. Went to the same school, Venkateshwara College of Engineering with Hari, but suddenly something happened. I basically started failing and I started accumulating a lot of arrears and I was struggling in school. I'll tell you what the details are there. I, at that point, accumulated a lot of arrears that I was not going to finish my BE. With the BE, the University of Madras said, you guys have to finish it off in 7 years since you joined. But like 4 years out, I had probably more than half my course load as arrears. So I was going to kind of drop out without a degree. And the amount of money our parents pay for education, right? My parents paid a lot of money for getting me in college and paying the fees and all, but I was just not doing my part. So what's going on, and what I really want to share with you guys is, see what happened to me personally and how I recovered from it. but that is not very interesting, right? It's just my autobiography. My autobiography is not necessarily going to be particularly useful for you. What I really want to do is I want to kind of share with you some of what worked for me and what worked for people like me. And then you take from it what makes sense for you. So how do we make sure that it works for you, right? That comes to the next slide. So the format we are going to follow is called as a personal introspection. So basically, I'm going to tell you certain things, and then periodically I will stop by and ask you a question. And then you're expected to write down in your own privately. Don't share it with your friends, okay? Even if you're sitting next to them, just try to get a private place to sit down and write about it, because it is very personal, okay? Now, do have some paper, pencil, or your notepad, or whatever you guys want to write it down. Go ahead and yeah, here's some background noise. You guys are not speaking, go on mute. Okay, so again, make sure that you're ready for those questions. So because you're not going to get much out of this unless you actually do this personal reflection. Okay, again, we will take a pause after the question, and if any of you want to share or if you have any question, do ask. But we do want to make sure, if you don't want to, I'm not going to make you answer any questions. So it's not like in schools, you have to answer a question or anything like that. It's up to you. I mean, if it is something that you want to share, and if you have any follow-up question, please do interrupt me and ask me what you need. Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to start with a very simple question. I want you to think about your life today. And in your life today, what is it that you're struggling with, right? It may be something that you have a difficulty. Maybe it is something you have difficulty focusing, something that else happening in a personal life, or you may be bothered by something politically that's happening, and a lot of things, there are things that are within you that you can control. There are things that are outside of you. It can be anything. So generally, I want you to think about your own life, and then I'm going to give you a 2-minute timer right now. And then you guys can think, I want you to write down some of your struggles as you have today. And it's going to be a 2-minute. So I'm going to be quiet for 2 minutes so that you guys can write it down. So this is kind of like the first question or first exercise for you. All right, let's get started. All right, so that's 2 minutes. So I want to kind of pause here. So let's get started, okay? So before we move on, I want to ask you guys, do you have, anybody wants to share any of your struggles? I'll start by sharing one of my struggle, right? As you all know, because of the COVID situation now, I'm working predominantly from home. So what the problem with the home is, I have right here in my computer, I log into my work. but then right there in my computer, I have my games also. So I find that if I am, if I have a slow time at work, I basically start playing a game on the other monitor. So I have these two dual monitors hooked up in my house. So one monitor work is going and one monitor my games are going. So that is one of the thing, and the games are very tempting. And once you're focused on it, you forget what's happening at work, as you guys know, right? So that is one of the struggle that I am having. It might be something as trivial as that. But that's one thing I just want to share with you, kind of what struggle I was facing today with the motivation. Like if there is anybody else who wants to share, please feel free to do. Again, no compulsion. But if there is any specific thing that you guys want to share with me in terms of your struggle, please let me know.
How do you want to? You want to open the question or you want to put them in the chat window? What do you prefer?
Either way is fine, Hari. I'm also monitoring the chat.
Is it an interactive one or like how do you want to do it? Because we just have 1 hour actually, right? So
exactly. Yeah, we don't have too much time for interaction, but I don't want to just kind of talk all the entire hour. So that's why I want to.
Should do 50 minutes talk and last 10 minutes Q&A? Is that fine?
No, it will be more appropriate if to answer it interactively right now, because right now there is a context for this question. So
there are some questions. So you want to take out the chat window and see appropriate time.
Yeah. So specifically, if there's anything I want to share is if there is a particular struggle that you want to do, let me know if that is something that you want to do that, right? So let me read those questions here and let us see if that qualifies as a struggle. So what kind of talents or skills should I acquire? I know that may be a good question, but I'm not sure seeing that as a struggle. But if you have any particular, I just want to keep it in the context of the conversation. We will build up to those questions eventually.
I would answer them tomorrow. I have a separate session dedicated for that, morning 10:30 a.m. Right? So So please come into the 10:30 a.m. call. We're going to talk about only career development, mentoring, and those kinds of we are going to talk. We'll talk about what skills you need. That's going to be an entire theme from September 3rd to October 15th, right? So have a bunch of people coming from industry coming to tell that. And tomorrow also we can talk about it in the morning, 10:30. Okay? Harbaksh and Vishnu, please, all of you, please join that meeting.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So struggle. Anybody else want to share anything? What is it that you're struggling today? I couldn't multitask and focus. Okay. That's good. I mean, at this point, we're just identifying. I'm not going to provide solutions for you. I just want to get a sense of what you guys are struggling with so that I can tune the future conversation along that line. Thanks, Sriram, for sharing. And then Gautam, Pawan Kumar Shastri says, how to get job being in a final year and are my skills? That is a fair question.
Yeah, I would just answer that thing, right? So skills is what you should focus, Pawan. Don't worry about the job. It's like I tell my students, I told you, right? It's a knowledge versus marks in the exam, right? You focus on the knowledge, automatically get marks. But you focus on the marks, you won't get the knowledge, right? Forget about the job. You'll eventually get it. Few thousands here and there, we'll all reach there. But no, nobody can guarantee anything on the job market, given what we are all industry is moving today because thanks to COVID, right? So just focus on what you can control. You focus only on that. Leave the story to destiny and the God, if you believe in God at least, right? So just focus on the skill development that you can control. We all there to help you. Just remain focused. Don't worry about the future. Right? Don't bother. I think Srini is going to talk about those kind of things, right?
Yeah, definitely. I do have a point on that one. I'll tell you when I come to that point in terms of how I got a job even without finishing my degree, actually. So I'll definitely tell you that.
Another question.
My struggle is that I have no idea about what I need to do. Fantastic question. That's one thing we will try to cover, Ishwar. Absolutely. No, these are all valid questions, guys. So thanks for sharing, because it also, when you share something like that, it also helps me focus on those areas where I also went through some of the questions that you guys were facing. Okay. And I'll tell you, fortunately, some of those questions I'll be able to answer down the stream, and I will make an attempt to do it. All right. With that, let me go on with my next part of the thing. So I wanted to tell you what happened here, right? I just wanted to give you a context of why all these things became relevant, right? So back in 1987, that's when I finished my 12th standard. I did it decently. In fact, you see in mathematics, I got 199, which was among the 1% in the nation. So I was pretty good in math, as you guys can see, and generally scored decent and got into this engineering college. It wasn't great, but it was okay. Good enough to get into engineering college. And then I did okay in the first year, but you see this 40% on the right hand side, you see that I started failing. So in 1989, I started failing. So suddenly something happened. I wasn't the best student, okay? I was above average, but then suddenly something happened, and then in 89, I started failing, and something weird happened, right? And then, so what was going on, right? That is something that really the question that you need to ask. Ideally, I should have, if life was perfect, when I was failing, I should have caught it myself up and then pulled myself up. But I didn't. I didn't do that. It actually got worse after that. What I mean by that, right? So look at this one here. So this is pretty much my grades from November 89 to April 91. How do you get a zero, right? How do you get a zero? The way you get a zero is by not showing up for the exam. So they mark it as AAA. So pretty much this entire period was a complete washout for me. I basically did not show up to work. What was going on, right? So you guys, like, what happened, right? The way I say that is life quake happened, right? So what I mean by that is everybody knows about earthquake, where the whole thing got shattered. For me, my life got shaken at that point. And what it is basically in 89, my father actually 89, my grandfather, he actually fell down and he was not able to walk, so he was bedridden. So he was in our house in the bed, and then in 89 he passed away. And then in 1990, my father had a stroke, and then in 91 he passed away. Now, I also had some other family situations around illness and my things like that. But the point here is I'm not the only person to face it, right? So the idea here is, I'm sure there are others who have faced worse tragedy than me. But for me, it affected me more so than anybody else. Okay. So what happened is I basically lost interest in education. I basically lost focus. I said, what is the point? I don't see that. I also want to mention one more thing in the context of what is it. At that point, I decided, hey, I am not in electronic engineering is not for me. I actually want to go into software. So I actually did, earlier on my own, some certificates from Computer Society of India. Now you see this 54, 54 is the computer programming. So I said, I didn't even show up for college. I didn't study for any exam, but nevertheless, I know that I could pass a computer programming class with zero preparation. So even before this incident, I had done some programming classes because my brother was a programmer. So I basically went for this one, sat, and I passed it. Okay, luckily for me, because I've done some courses from Computer Science Society of India, not because I learned anything on the classes. But the point here is, there was something going on, the life quake is happening, and then I was not focusing enough on my education. Now, this was a big shock to me, right? At this point, if you notice that, like I said, at 91, I should have graduated, but then by 91, I hadn't finished, more than a quarter of all the requirements for bachelor's degree. So I was going to fail out. I was basically going to give up, and I said, what's the point? And so basically that was my situation. It was one of the low point in my life. And then this happened, right? So let me go to the next slide here. So what happened was, I got interested in spirituality and religion. I basically wanted to relinquish anything and become a sannyasi. Okay, I said, this is too hard for me. I'm too sad and too depressed. I can't fight this battle. And I'm seeing all my father and grandfather dying and people getting sick. And I said, what is the point? Even if I don't want to, I'm not going to become an electronic engineer. It's no hope for me. I'm going to give up. So I went for one of these Bhagavad Gita lectures. And then the Swamiji basically was saying, look at what Krishna was telling Arjuna. He was saying, go fight the battle. So he was saying Gita is not for people who are trying to run away from life. It is for the people who are trying to stay in life and fight it. So that was a turning point for me. For me, personally speaking, when I listened to that lecture, it was that Bhagavad Gita lecture. It is about, standing in the battle and fighting the battle. Now, the reason I titled this as a battle for life, is because if you look at it, right now, you guys know the coronavirus situation, right? What they're talking about is the only prevention against coronavirus is your body's antibodies in your body. Either you get it through other, plasma transfer or a vaccine or even on your own. They have to fight this body. So, in our blood cells, every minute there is a battle going on. So from our blood to even our own personal lives, personal life, like I was telling, you want to do something and then you're not able to do it. And then the society also, right? You guys want to get a job, you want to get the skill, you're competing with other job applicants, and you're worried about it. So it is a battle. And I want to kind of tell you this, right? The attitude towards life should be that it is a battle in which you are trying to achieve success. Okay. One thing which is not good and which will definitely kill you is if you see life as something, you know, where you are just going from one pleasure to other pleasure. Okay, I'm being very blunt with you, right? You are just saying, at this age, right, many of us want to actually go see the world, experience new experiences. You're just going from, what I would call as a childhood to adulthood. You're in the transition period. So you really are looking to enjoy life and you want to see the world and, experience have new experiences. But don't take of life as going from one pleasure to other. That will destroy you. Think of life as a battle. That is my first message. So this is a battle. So if you have that attitude towards life, it is a battle that I'm going to fight and win, then that is going to help you a lot. So that is my first recognition for you. Now we go to the next introspection, right? I want you to think about the struggles you wrote down in the previous session, but I also want you to think what you need to do to overcome those struggles, right? No struggle, every struggle, you are the best person who knows your own struggle. You are going to be the best person to give solutions for your trouble. So with that attitude, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes again to think about your how to overcome the struggles that you previously identified. Okay, here you go. Thank you, guys. So I hope you had some thought on that one. I see a chat message from Gupta here. We can share our thoughts with our dear ones. Definitely, that is one of the techniques I will talk about later in terms of overcoming this, in terms of the social connection. Absolutely right, man. That is one of them. Anybody else? Anybody who wants to share how you can overcome your struggle? If there is something you want to share, I'll give you a minute here. You can chat it on the chat or speak up, unmute and speak up, whatever works for you guys. Okay, so meditate. Sriram says meditate. Yeah, definitely. That does help. Note down your commitments. Yeah, absolutely. That's being clear about it. Priyadarshini says, start managing time and spend it on things that actually matters. Oh yeah, making it relevant. Yeah, absolutely. Plan ahead. Absolutely. Planning is very important. Very true. All very good ideas. You guys know, I mean, I'm not sure why you are coming to this class. So you probably know many of the right techniques, but you guys are all on the right track. That is exactly what I'm going to be focusing on. Excellent. So let's move forward. So I want to kind of tell you what's going on here, right? For if I basically, like I said, right, this is some of my periods where I was failing. I was basically so depressed and so sad I didn't even show up for school to college or the exams. But then 91, my father passed away. You know, it was a transformational moment. You know, it was a relief in some sense for him from all the pain and suffering, but it also made me more focused. At that time, you know, I said, okay, I don't have to worry about my father anymore. I really need to figure out what I need to do with my life. So it was kind of an opening that time. So what did I do, right? I basically, in 90, believe it or not, guys, so this is from 91 to 93, 92, even before this, basically somewhere in the middle, right? Somewhere in the middle of it, I got a job. So if you notice, I actually passed more exams after getting a job than before getting a job. Now, first question, there was a question earlier about what skills, you know, I told you, right? What got me a job? See, I'll also make it very clear, right? There are people who finished BE but still couldn't find a job. But I had not even passed half of my BE exams, but I still got a job in 1992. How did I get that, right? I did some certifications from Computer Society of India, and I got the skills. I think that is exactly what Hari was mentioning earlier. So if you have the skills, but you won't get it in a day, right? And you have to prove that skills. Sometimes, many a times you get it on your job. That is very common thing. But you can also do something on your own and then have some specific skills and knowledge. Either you can prove through your education or a certification or some other mechanism wherein you get a specific skill and that would get you your job. So that is what happened for me. In 1992, I got a job as a programmer, even though I still had so much arrears in my BE. Okay. And what happened is very, very interesting. So what happened is at that time, I suddenly realized, you know, I can't survive as a programmer without getting a proper degree. You know, everybody was succeeding and I was just here without a win. So what I did is I had a routine. So this is very important. Guys want you to pay attention. So what I used to do is I go to work at 9 o'clock, come back at 6. And guess what? First thing I do is I have a dinner and then I actually went to sleep. And then I will wake up around 10 or something like that. From 10 o'clock to morning 2 or 3, I used to study every day, right? Every weekday. And weekend, of course, whatever time I can, I have studied. But every weekday I was studying. So I made it a routine. So this was this. I come home, sleep, wake up, study. And then 2 or 3, I sleep again. And then for another few hours, then wake up and then go to work. This is what I did. And guess what happened? I actually passed most of my arrears when I was working. I actually cleared more arrears when I was working than before I started working. Now, believe me, that basically tells you something. It is a question of focus. It is not a question of, effort. And also the key thing I want to mention is the routines, right? The daily routines. So that helped me succeed. So I want you to think about, I asked you to think about how to overcome your success. In my case, there are four things that actually help me overcome my overcome my limitations or failures. So I'm going to share with you and then we will jump into each one of them in detail, but I'll give you a quick overview. So to me, the foundation on which you build is physical well-being. If you guys get sick and if you're not in a healthy state, then that's nothing more to it, right? God forbid, there are people with cancer or other terminal diseases. They're not going to worry about life success. They have it set there. The second aspect is the emotional well-being. That is what I was referring to. That is what I was suffering from, personally speaking. I also was not very physically well. In fact, my depression led me to overeating, and I was actually about 130 kilos or something. I was very overweight. And many of you know, I was probably one of the fattest guy in the school, college. So I was really not taking care of my health, but it was also tied to my emotional overeating, right? So I was eating to just sort of drown my sorrow, and that was actually not taking good care of it. The problem with the overeating is you eat too much, you get a food coma. And then you can't study. So you eat a lot and then you fall asleep and then you wake up and then eat a lot and then fall asleep. So they were tied. So the physical well-being and emotional well-being are tied to each other. So if you, so people don't take proper care of themselves physically if they are not emotionally well. And if they're not physically well, then there is a very difficult thing. They can't pretty much achieve anything. And then I will talk about something called the SMART goals. That is one of the things. So you need to set your goals. Goals will give you the direction for life. So we will talk about, right now I'm a manager for software engineering teams. So this is something I do all the time for any of the employees that I come into our team. We set goals and then we say, hey, this is what we are going to accomplish this 6 months or this 1 year, or even in the near next 5 years, right? So it depends on but it is more relevant when it is short term. If you want to talk about something 20 years away, probably SMART is kind of tough. But if goals give you the direction, goals tell you, right, you go in this direction. But what actually takes you there is something called as a daily discipline or habits. Okay, I call it daily discipline, but you can call it as a habit. But that is essentially what is going to give you the success. So we are going to go into it one thing at a time. We will start here with physical well-being. So physical well-being is kind of well known, right? It's in the bottom line. What you really need to do is eat right and exercise. Don't put junk food in your body. Eat healthy. Fruits and vegetables. You guys know the deal, right? There are so much information out there nowadays. Make sure that you're eating well. Don't get into the sugar high. Cut back on sugar. Don't too much. Too much sugar is really not good. And most definitely don't get into anything, any bad habits. I'm talking about smoking, drinking, or any other drugs or anything worse. Those things are really going to kill you. That will kill your physical well-being. Do take time to exercise. It may be anything. It can be a jog or a walk or a run or any other physical activity that you can do. But do take time. Sometimes you say, one of the things that we say, I'm so busy, I cannot. I don't have time to exercise. But honestly, you know what? There is something called as productivity. Your mind, if it is focused, you can do more. So you do take that half an hour, to do that exercise. It is very, very important that you take care of yourself very physically. Okay. This is something you should already know. And so I'm not going to emphasize it a lot. The emotional well-being is trickier. Okay. Now, the emotional well-being is two things. And interestingly, a couple of people already mentioned. Somebody said one of the things is sharing with the family. We are, if you really think about it, right, we are social creatures. Even if you are introverted, we care. That social support is very important. I remember, you may be, I'll give you a simple example, right? You may be basically going somewhere and then suddenly you meet a friend who haven't seen in 5 years. Suddenly your heart leaps out with joy. You say, hey, how are you, man? What are you doing? So you're really happy to see that person because that person has been a good friend of you in school and then you haven't seen in many years. I noticed that even we used to have our Venkatesha colleges get together. I was seeing, we had this, over the past week, people were talking for 3 hours and time passed just like that. We haven't connected in a long time. So it was so good to connect with other friends. But it could also be your family, right? We do talk to your family members. So, and many people in the community, like, Hari and others, are also willing to help. So sometimes you just have to ask for it. But what happens is if we are very lonely and we forget those emotional connections. So don't do that, right? I know you can't, nobody can study for you, but they can definitely provide that emotional support. And do take time to talk to friends. Of course, you don't want to be constantly chattering. And I also want to make that quality count. Many times we have this social networking where you have friends. So friends are some hundreds of people, not that they are friends. They are just friends on social network. That doesn't count. You need to be able to have somebody to talk to physically. Okay, somebody you connect with and you actually enjoy being with. So definitely make those connections. You do need a friend or a family member or even a mentor or some co-workers or co-students. All of them counts. So those are the one very important things for happiness. There is a book by a person named Vivek Murthy. He's a former, Surgeon General in America. I live in US, by the way. And he has written a book. He actually has a master's degree in business administration from Harvard, and he has an MD degree, and he was one of the top doctor of the country during Obama administration. He has written a book called Together. Social connections holds the key to better health, better performance, and greater happiness. So you want health, better performance, and happiness, don't forget your social connections. That's one. But you also need the time to do meditation. Personally, I found meditation or the so-called mindfulness to be very effective. You guys should try that out. Many times what is happening is the mind is like a monkey, man. It just goes running around like this from here to there and there to here and all that. You really need to find a way to control it. It is not, and the mind is not easy to control. I mean, when I say I'm not trying mind control, means it doesn't mean you make it do what it is. You have to kind of train it. I think of it as a training, and meditation is a way of training the mind. And it also has some spiritual growth aspects to it. I will not get into the religious or spiritual aspect of it, but frankly speaking, even if you are not a particularly theistic person, you try the mindfulness exercise. There are many secular practices, and there have been a lot of researchers, like they used to hook up this MRI to the brain and then see how the person handles some of the situations when they have a meditation. Sometimes we are very agitated or very sad or very angry, and all those kind of disrupt our life. So do take time to take care of yourself emotionally. So with that question, I'm going to move to the next introspection. Okay, I want to give you again a 2-minute timer. I want you to think about what you are doing or what you want to do to take care of yourself physically and also emotionally, both aspects. Again, 2 minutes for you to write it down. All right. Thank you all. So I hope you thought about some of the things that you are either doing or want to do. Again, like in the same format, anybody wants to share what they are planning to start doing or what they are doing right now to take care of yourself, both physically and emotionally. Anything you want to stop doing or anything you want to start doing? All right. All right. Harbaksh Gupta says, I watch stand-up comedy to reduce stress and sometimes go for a walk. Excellent. Excellent ideas. Definitely helps. Okay. So I also wanted to answer one of the question. I know earlier Shrinivas Ram asked, hey, between the routine and goal, there is something called as laziness and procrastination. How to break that up? Shrinivas, we are going to consider that. This is the topic I mentioned earlier called habit or daily discipline. We will come to that. That's one of the last things we'll cover today, but I'll come back to that one. So that's one. And then Sanjay says, I have some goals, but I'm not focusing on a particular jumping then and there between those. That is a very good point. So sometimes this is exactly where it helps to write it down, Sanjay. And we are going to have an exercise. I'm going to give you a heads up. We are going to have an exercise where we are going to start writing our SMART goals there. So in terms of physical and emotional health, do take care of it, guys. Because there is a saying in my mother tongue, you can't draw a beautiful portrait unless you have a canvas to paint the picture on. So you are the canvas, right? Whatever you make of your life, you need to first have your body and mind in order. You can't accomplish anything in the world until you have the foundations, and that is kind of like your armor, if you want to say, in the battle of life, right? Your armor is your protection. Your protection is you take care of your body and mind. Then you can go for on the battle and fight other things. But first thing you do is look inside and then take care of your own body, right, and mind. Very important thing. So with that one, Sanjay's particular thing comes in very appropriate time. That is exactly one of the questions that I wanted to cover. So what I do is, this is something that we do in management nowadays. And if you guys join a job, you will be asked to write your quarterly goals or annual goals like this format. Now, this format is called a SMART goal. Now, what is a SMART goal, right? So SMART goal is something which is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Okay, what is it specific, right? So the specific thing means you should be very clear and specific, something that is tangible and something that is significant. Now, let me tell you, right? I say, hey, I want to get rich. Yeah, that's a nice goal, but is that specific? No, it is not. So that won't make a SMART goal. So I want you to think about it, because we are going to go through an exercise and write down the SMART goals. So clearly, it's very important that you understand this, right? It has to be specific. It has to be a concrete thing, okay? And it has to be measurable. You can say, I want to get good grades. Yeah, that is specific, but can you measure it? You want to say, I want to get I want to pass with 80%. I don't know, maybe you guys are better than that, maybe 90%. You set your goal, right? You can look at how you have been doing and then say, hey, last semester I did X percentage average. I want to get more than that this next semester. You set such goals, right? So make something, so you can actually see if you track it. So it must be something that you can quantify, right? It must be there. And it must be achievable, right? What I mean by that is it has to be attainable, and it should stretch your ability, but not to the point where it becomes impossible for it. If tomorrow I say, hey, I'm going to run in the Olympics, it is not attainable for me given my age and health. Okay, but you have to be realistic there, right? It has to be something that is that you can accomplish. It is like climbing a ladder, right? Don't try to jump from the bottom step to all the way to the top. You will fall and break your nose. So go one step at a time, or two steps if you want to stretch yourself, but don't do more than that. Relevant, right? This is important, right? You don't want to say, when it comes to your college education, let us say that's on your job or career. Don't say, you can, if you say that I want to actually have a side gig as a stand-up comedian, I'm just making it up. That may be fine, but that may not be relevant in accomplishing what is it that you are expected to do today, right? Today you are an engineering student, you are not a stand-up comedian. Maybe some people do quit college and do that, but I'm not talking about them. I'm just saying, keep it something which is relevant to what you really need to do. For most of us, right? Most of you guys, I assume, is getting through college and getting jobs, or maybe even doing a master's degree, those kind of things, right? Those are something that that are relevant for you. So it has to be something relevant, reasonable, and it should be something that matters to you. It should be something that is important for you, right? Don't pick something which is not, you can say, I want to, what is that? I want to start singing in Smooth. That's a fun thing to do, but is it really a relevant goal? Probably for what you need to accomplish, unless you plan to become a professional or a non-professional singer. But singing is not really a goal in itself. But it is nothing wrong with it. I just want to make sure that when it comes to the SMART goal, I'm talking about your life. Make sure it is relevant for you. Or maybe it is. Maybe music is important to you and you do want to practice it. That's fine too. I just want to make sure that it is relevant for you, because for one person it is relevant, for another one it is not. Last but not the least, it has to be time bound. Okay, this is another 5 tests you need to do, because what we need to do is, when you write down your goals, these are the 5 things you need to write down, and make sure that it covers all of them. Time bound meaning it is something that you can accomplish in the next 6 months or a year, ideally. That's what we do for our performance reviews, guys. As a manager, that's what I do with my team. But if you guys can, I'm okay with if it is up to the next 5 years, because you are in the transition phase, right? You're finishing up college, starting a job kind of a situation. So it's okay. I mean, it's okay to have something a little bit longer than that. You set your goal, right? And I also want to make it clear, right? This goal will give you the direction, but what takes you there is your daily discipline, right? It is like, it is like saying, I am going in that direction. You just points you the finger. So that is what is the purpose of this goal, and you need to be very clear about that. So with that, I'm going to start the timer again, but this time I'm going to start the 5 minutes timer. But before I do, I also put in, just for your reference, what the SMART means right there on the right hand side, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. The 5 minutes, honestly, is not enough, but it is a decent amount of time for a first cut. And then once you have done that, I would encourage you to go back and revise it in the future. Okay. All right, let's go. Ishwar, I see your question, but if I start typing, the timer stops. So I will answer it over here. So your question is, what if I do not have any goals? It is tough to find your goals. What I would say is, take a stab at it. We'll discuss it after this timer is over. All right, thank you. And sorry, Ishwar, I started typing a reply back and then it stopped the timer. So I actually stopped typing back and I actually spoke over the phone. So Ishwar asked, sir, what do I do if I have no goals? That's a fantastic question. Honestly, man, the 2 years when I was really doing in my downtime, when I was depressed, that is exactly what I was going through. I had no interest, no goals. I basically lost interest in life. Okay. And in fact, for when I am, that is the time, for people who are very passionate about what they want in life, they are actually easy. They know intuitively what their goals are, right? For them, it is actually easy. It is for people without goals, this writing down the SMART goal is more important. In fact, for a person like you, it's even more important because some people can just say, yeah, I know exactly what it is because this is what I want to achieve. Those guys are the lucky ones, if I would say, right? They know exactly what they want and they just need to tune it to make it, specific, measurable, achievable, and all that stuff. But they know, basically they know what their life passion is. They are lucky ones, right? They know exactly what they want to accomplish. But for those of us who don't have it, that is why this becomes very, very critical. And it also becomes important. Now, when you don't have goals, look for inspiration, right? Look, inspirations is, I'll tell you one other story. I know one of my classmates was inspired by one of my successes. He actually came out and said, wow, it actually inspired me to take better care of my health. In fact, he mentioned that in the meeting I mentioned earlier about the reunion meeting I mentioned. So you look at the other people's success, or their accomplishment that might inspire you. I'm not saying it will, it could. Definitely also look at your expectations of your parents, right? Because your parents have invested so much on you. They may have certain, desires from you, talk to them, right? Sometimes if you talk to them, you may get a sense of what your path is. But there is no easy answer to what your goals are. And obviously each person's goal is their own goal. I can create your goal for you. So you really have to come up with it. Spend some more time on it. I hope you do find something meaningful for you. It has to be meaningful, otherwise, not going to work. And Okay, so Harbak Gupta says, I'm a final year. I experience anxiety at many levels. So for that one, definitely the solution is mindfulness. There is a Yale University study. What they did is they did this, hooked up MRI to the mind, and then they looked at the people who did this mindfulness practice or meditative practices versus those who did not. They found that those who did those practices, the mindfulness practices or meditative practices, they were able to deal with some of those negative emotions better than they would otherwise. So that is the solution. See, if you think about it, right, anxiety is a reaction or some neurons firing inside your brain. Okay, well, let's be very clear about it, right? Now, how do you overcome it? By training the brain, right? That training is this mindfulness and meditative practices. They will help you, and it has like I said, right, I'm being very superficial. I'm just saying, practical thing. I deliberately am trying to avoid any religion or spiritual implications. I will not go into that one, but that's something other people can do. But practically speaking, even scientifically speaking, meditation and mindfulness techniques are very beneficial. Everybody is looking into it. Harbak should definitely look into it. I think it will benefit you. It helped me. It helped me with some of my issues. Again, guys, this SMART goal is tough. I gave you a lot of time, but still that is not enough. You may have to go back and work on it later on. Tune it, okay? Make it your own. And I hope you find it, and you find inspiration to find what is relevant for you. And you feel free to write it down. We do it twice a year in our office, right? So that's what I do for my teams. So it's not like a one-time one document and they're done for your life. So keep revising it periodically. All right.
Okay, can I have a comment on the SMART goals?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
It's extremely important. I'm so happy, Srini, when I saw your slides, you're talking about SMART goals. It's exactly what we do in industry. And if you guys do whatever you do, personal goals, professional goals, if you don't have goals, you please discuss with the mentor. I'll be your buddy. I'm available. I can get you the right people if I don't know anything, right? So please set goals. Your passion, you should have goals. Whereas time just fly away. All of us are only 24 hours, right? I think in my class I talk about Steve Jobs, right? So I think so. He talks about the goals, a dream, and a lot of vision, right? So setting goals is important, and set a realistic goal. It's extremely whatever Srini told. Can only re-emphasize on that. Extremely important. Please follow that in personal life and also professional life, right? Please do that.
Yeah. Ishwar, Hari already answered that question. Talk to your mentor, man. Talk to the people. See, this is where the community that I mentioned, right? Talk to your people, your well-wishers, right?
Yeah,
They
inspiration
can
is very
inspire.
simple, right? It's something what you like to do is your inspiration,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, you do it
But
few
Ishwar
times.
says he doesn't
Yeah, unless
have
you
a.
try, no, unless you try, you won't know what you like, right?
Yeah,
So you have to
exactly.
try few times, and if you want to do it again, then that's your like what you like. That's your inspiration.
Yeah,
And it takes
absolutely.
time. It took 50
It
years
takes
for me
time.
to find out what is my inspiration. I've been telling my class, right? It takes
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Right? It's okay. It's
absolutely.
okay if you don't know what you want to do. It's okay. You are not
Yes.
like alone. You are in the same boat.
You are right. You're not going to solve your life's problem in one 5 minute session, man. So, Ishwar, it's okay. Be patient with yourself. If you don't find the inspiration right now, don't give up on it. Keep working on it. You will get it, right? You will find your inspiration, and it is a when you feel a ownership over something, when you care about deeply about something, that is when your inspiration comes. I'll tell you that, right? So you have to feel like hey, this is a contribution I want to make. This is something I own. That ownership mentality is very, very important. It will come. Just take my word for it. It is a matter of time. See that during the transition time, like when you're going from education to college or something like that, some big changes in your life, it is hard. So Ishwar, how? Ishwar is your son? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. That's great. So till you find an inspiration, it will be great. All right. With that, let's move on to, so basically, what I would say is definitely work on it. Watch some TED Talks also, Ishwar. So basically, that also helps. I found some inspiration by seeing some of the great things up people did. So, all right. Okay, so let's move on. I know we have only a few minutes. Maybe take a little bit longer. Hari, is that okay? It may take some 10 minutes longer than what we allotted.
Fine. That you can ask the class if they're okay. I'm okay, right?
Guys, you guys have extra time to go through this one, or do I need to rush it? Guys, anybody has to leave in next 5 minutes. Okay, so I'll try to rush it as much as I can, Hari. Sorry about that. So basically, I want to talk about, we talked about goals, right? Goals is going to give you the direction. It tells you that you go into this direction, and then basically what you really want is, what you want to do is what takes you there, right? So you have to march forward, right? Every day you have to do something. Now, if you think about what you do every day, that is called as, if you do, that's something you do regularly every day, it is called as a habit. So we all have a habit, right? Look at what you do when you wake up or before you go to bed. There is a habit that you always do. So habit consists of what is called as a habit cycle. The habit cycle is, first there is something called as a trigger or a cue, and then there is a routine that you do every day, and then you basically give a reward, you get a reward out of it, and then you basically, that reward leaves a taste, right? It tastes in your mind, oh yeah, that was fun. So then you basically, the next time the trigger happens, you basically do that. Now, I will tell you a very simple trigger, right? So let us say that you are sitting down to study. Okay, you set a book and you're all set to go. And then you have your phone nearby and it buzzes. And oh my God, maybe it is a funny meme that somebody sent me. So you take it and grab it and check it. And then it happens to be something fun that somebody sent, and then you're acting, ha 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 ha, those so funny. And then what happens? You start surfing through it. Now you surf through all the messages, 90% of it is junk. There may be one or two which is actually either interesting or relevant or funny. But then you still keep, going through it. But then what happens is, before you know it, you just like 1 hour. You haven't studied for 1 hour. So this is a very simple habit, which is, I would call it in this context as a bad habit. Okay, there is nothing good or bad about a habit. Habit is a habit, but whether it helps you towards a goal makes it a good habit. If it doesn't, it is a bad habit. Okay. So with that, so I want you to think about it, right? So there are two things I want you to think about. One thing, in terms of, everybody keeps asking, how do I achieve my goal? Okay, first you need to write down your goal. Next thing is, how do I achieve my goal? So the achieving the goal is basically, there are two aspects of it. One is, you have to break the habits which actually prevent you from success. It can be anything. You guys need to, you have to do, think about it and then see what is it that you want to break. We'll have an exercise on it later. And then you also want to think about what is the new habit you need to form. So those are the two things. You need to break bad habits and start new habits. Okay. So there is 2 slides on it, 2 sections on it on how to break an habit, right? So the breaking the habit, the best thing to do is to avoid the trigger or the temptation. So for example, let us say that phone is distracting you when you're studying. Put it away. When you're studying, just keep the phone away from you so it is not distracting you. You go take it only when you're done with your studies, right? Or for let us say that there are certain things, I mean, I know I have a family relative who is an alcoholic. So the best thing for them is to completely avoid alcohol, because even if you have 1 cup, that is it. They cannot control themselves. Okay. So there are certain bad habits, especially this kind of what is called as addictive substances. Only solution is to completely abstain. You cannot even try it. Okay. But if it is something like in the phone and all, you don't want to completely avoid the phone. So you put it away. You just avoid the temptation. Maybe it is something on the television that that bothers you, or maybe you find out. You guys know what your bad habits, anything that is preventing you from achieving your own, you have to avoid. So basically, break the bad habits. That is step 1. Step 2 is create new habit. No, I mentioned earlier, right? I mentioned what I succeeded. I used to come home, eat, sleep, and then study for 5 hours. Remember? That is what gave me the greatest success. Okay. That was a habit. And what happened is I had a routine. So I had a routine. I had to go to work, came back, and it became a routine. And then I basically, that they were sequencing. So what I do is after I come back home, I'm going to sleep. And then after I sleep, I'm going to study. Okay, this is a very simple, right? I know that that sleeping was something that I habitually formed because I enjoyed taking that rest after that, especially after I come home, I have dinner and I have a short nap. Okay, but then after I wake up, I immediately sit down to study. So that is what changed me. That is what is called as habit chaining. So you take your existing habit and then add to it the new habit that you want to form. Now, you guys want to read about it. There is a URL for you here, Tiny Habits, that talks about how to create new habits. So again, to go back to what I was trying to say, there are 2 steps. You want to break your bad habits and then start your new habit. Okay. So with the breaking the bad habit, I want you to think about what habits you want to break and what you want to make, and write it down. Okay, go ahead. Harbaksh, you had a good point. Your problem, you want to stop procrastinating and overthinking. Procrastinating, overthinking I know it is habitually we do that, but it is very difficult to kind of, I mean, yeah, you have the way I can just say, hey, stop doing it or abstain from doing it. But that's not, I know that doesn't work. The best way to handle in my mind is to form new habit. You find a replacement thing instead of thinking about not procrastinating and not overthinking, focus on something more concrete. Like I said, create a new habit to replace it, right? So you have to replace that with something better. So you have to give it up for something. If you have something better to do, then you will probably not do that. So that's the only suggestion I have. Yeah, Divya, wake up early and avoid being lazy. Excellent. Do that. If there is, Divya, one thing which I would say is, see, I like a morning walk personally and a nice coffee in the morning. So to me, that is a motivation to wake up early. Okay. So basically, you find some activity that you like in the morning. So you can say the way you write that habit is, after I wake up, I will do this. And that if there's an activity that you truly enjoy, that will give you a motivation for being up. Okay. Sriram wants to spend 2 hours on your passion. Keep asking what next. Okay, yeah, go for it. Definitely inch it out, right? Plan your day, guys. Plan your day, plan your week. Make it a routine. See, that is the whole point of it, right? You make sure that you have a routine that is aligned with your goals. Okay, find your goal and then align with it. Okay. All right. So last, I want to kind of provide you with a little bit of inspiration. This is me. The one on the picture on the left is me 5 years ago in New York. And this is from me a year ago in what is called as Yellowstone Park here in US, right? Now, the difference between these two pictures is 40 kilos. Okay, I lost 40 kilos over the past 5 years by following some of the techniques I mentioned here, primarily around setting a goal and having a daily discipline and taking care of myself both physically and emotionally. Okay, so this is something that I mentioned, right, was an inspiration to some of my classmates to take better care of themselves. So I want to leave that thought with you. So this is not just for your any aspect of it, right? That you want, whatever goal you want to accomplish, it is possible. You just have to make sure that you are clear in what you want to accomplish, and you have a daily discipline or a daily habit that takes you there. Okay. All right. So to conclude, we talked about what is your struggle, and then we talked about what is it that's stopping your success, and basically how to overcome that struggle. That we talked about that. We also talked about why it is very important to take care of yourself physically and emotionally. That's a foundation. And then you do need to write down your SMART goals. Some people have difficulty writing the goal. Like I said, it is a continuous process. It's not a one-time exercise. Work on it. Find inspiration. Find people who inspire you, and that will help you. And then definitely the goals are basically the direction, but your battle is daily, right? You have to march. When the soldiers march, they do one step at a time. They conquer one territory and then go to the next territory. That's how the battle is fought. So the way you fight your life's battle is to go through this one day, go forward with this in terms of, with your habits. Habits is your thing. Bad habits, cut them out. Good habits, start them, right? And that make it a habit. Make it a habit to work towards your goal. I think that should give you success. With that, I will wish you all my very best and success in life. Go for it, guys. Any questions before?
Yeah, I have a question, Srini. I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing your life experience. It's excellent. And yeah, I think I have extended students now. I used to have only 10, 11 students, but I have 28 people, 24 people attending. It's awesome.
Right? All right, nice.
So nice. Thank you guys coming in. So Srini, just the last question, right? Probably I'm asking on behalf of the students, right? And do you have any secret sauce for some of the folks, for friends here who have arrears in the college? So what should they do? How they should get over it?
Yeah. So basically, again, my secret sauce, again, like I said, I already mentioned, is the daily discipline, right? So the way we do it is you have to have a routine, right? It is not the most fun things. I want to tell you one thing, right? Ishwar mentioned something about losing interest, or was somebody else, I forget now. But basically, what happened when that particular time is we don't have a goal. And I think if you don't have a goal, having the discipline will actually help you focus. See, sometimes what happens is we are not interested in it, man. You know, it's like I look at electromagnetic waveguide and wave theory and I said, I'm not going to do this for my living. It isn't important to me. Okay, I am going to work on something else. But then I have to pass the exam to get the, get past my school thing. So what do I do? How do I overcome it, right? That is where the daily discipline or a habit comes in. Whether, you know, it is, we call it as a duty, right? That is what we do. So once you start working, right, whether you like it or not, you show up for work, because that's how you get paid, right? That's what happens to adults like us. So the same situation happens to as a student. It is a job, right? It is a job. It is a daily discipline. You take a book and study for it. Okay, your goal should be to have that discipline. And if you are having difficulty with the subject itself, see, you have to ask yourself, is it a concept that you're having difficulty with, or is it the effort that you're having difficulty with? If it is a concept that you're having difficulty with, take help, right? That's where you go to people like Hari and others who know this field, get some extra help with the tuitioning and all that, if it is a concept issue. If it is the effort issue, which was the case in my thing, you know, I didn't have interest in the subject, so I was not studying it. If it is that kind of issue, sometimes you got to have this discipline to go focus on it. So that is what I would, that's the two things that come to my mind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, and yeah, there was another question here. Was there any other questions in the chat? I'm trying to patch up here. No. Did I miss anything, Hari?
No.
Okay. All righty. Thank you all, guys. And like I said, best wishes to you, and connect to me on LinkedIn and let me know if there is any follow-up questions. I will try to share the high-level slides too.
The last thing, yeah, I need feedback. I think, yeah, it's very important feedback process, good, bad, or if you don't want to give any feedback, that is fine. Yeah, please ping me separately in the WhatsApp or in Telegram. I think you all know my IDs in Telegram. Right, so please ping me in private. I can pass the feedback to Shrinivas. Right, so feedback is extremely. If you have no feedback, please tell that. I would expect all 25 of you to share feedback, good or bad, or if you have no feedback, say no feedback. So I don't intend to follow up with any of you. If you think you want to respect us for the time what we shared with you, please share the feedback. It will motivate us to arrange more lectures. That's only one thing, right? Because we are all human beings, right? We are not godly people. So we all want feedbacks. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.